Hello, this is Kim Nelson, doing another video in support of our class here at FIT. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to take the sketch that we did in the previous video, the developmental studies we made for a dome ring, and I'm going to bring them into Rhino to clean them up and to prepare for modeling a maquette. First step in doing this is going to be to get this image into Rhino. So I'm going to come up here into my view and clear the guides. I can get rid of the grid and things in the background, but I think they might prove useful inside of Rhino, so I'm going to leave them there. I'm going to get a selection marquee, select this region. I'm going to Control-Shift-C. That'll copy everything all the way down to the canvas. And then I'm going to start a new canvas. And I'm going to pick clipboard as my option. And that did not do what I expected it to do, so we will try again. Control-Shift-C. And sorry, Control-V. There. Just neglected to paste. So, there we're set. I'm going to save this as a JPEG. And then I can clear Photoshop. And we will go into Rhino. We can watch the recording software for a second while this comes up. And there we go. I'm going to bring this image into the top viewport. So, picture frame. Turn off grid snap and just drag this into place. Put it on a layer I'm not going to be using much. And adjust the opacity down. Okay. There's material there. And that should give me a slider. I'm apologizing. I have not had this challenge. There we go. Rhino 5 to Rhino 6. This is much more self-apparent in Rhino 5 than it is Rhino 6. I apologize. Basically, we want to slide the transparency up until this thing is a good 70% transparent. And then I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer. Next thing I want to do is I want to move this and scale it at the same time and center it in viewport. I'm going to center it around the ring bore. So to do that, I'm going to create a circle. Curve tools. Use a color that's going to be quite easy to see. Circle center radius. And I'm just going to pull out a circle here. And actually that is not as visible as I'd hoped. Go for white. And this is just approximate. I'm going to center it now on top of my drawing as carefully as I can. Looks just a touch small, so I could either scale it or I can offset it. I'll go ahead and offset it. So this curve represents the finger bore at the size my drawing currently is. I want it to be 17 millimeters in diameter. Okay, unlock this layer that the image is on. Transform, orient 2 points with a quad snap. Reference point 1 and 2, target point 1 or 2, except for I always forget to hit scale yes. 3D is fine, it's a flat object, it doesn't make a difference. Reference 1 and 2, target 1 and 2. And that now puts our image at scale in the background. So now I'm going to trace this in Rhino. I will start by doing an offset curve to capture the thickness here, and then I will scale it from that quadrant as far as makes sense, which is about right there, and then it starts to fall away, so it no longer is suitable. Take a straight line and cut that off. Do another straight line. I'm going to start this at the center grid line. Use that grid snap and then move it up to where I want it. And I'll use a blend curve. Adjustable. And I'll play with the handles to come as close as I can. That looks pretty good. Draw a cutting curve down this way. Trim the bottom off of the other side. Join these together so I have one curve. Rebuild it so it's not a polycurve anymore. 12 of 4 should be pretty good, actually. Turn on the points. Turn on the curvature graph. You can see there's a little bit of a flatness here, which is actually where the drawing fell the most, the tracing fell furthest from my hand-drawn line. That's good. So I'm going to now mirror this over with history. Turn on my points. Grab this point, point snap on, slide it to the end, slide it back with ortho until I get a nice smooth top. The bottom looks smooth, so I'm not going to mess with it. Join these together, which will break history, but that will give me my top view. My front view. I'm going to see if I can get any better visibility. Actually, the red is going to be much easier to see, so I'll keep working with that. Now we have to establish the size of the center stone. I can guess, but why bother? I'm going to just draw an oval using the Shift key to keep it ortho. And then I'm going to take a look at what I have here. I'm going to do a non-uniform scale from quad. That's pretty close. I'm going to check my distances so I know how big this is supposed to be. It's a 7 by 9, I'm going to guess. Yeah, it's a 7 by 9. So now that I know that, I'm going to draw an actual 7 by 9. Ellipse from center using center snap. And these dimensions will be half, so 7 by 9 is 3.5 by 4.5. Click. And then I can delete. I kept the back one as selected so I could delete it easily. I'm going to offset the bezel. See what that ended up being. 6914, that's not a real dimension. Always try and keep them as normal as they would be. I'll make it 0.7 because that's more logical than 0.69 something, something, something. So I have that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this straight up. I'm going to give myself a center line for both of these. Straight line both sides. Straight line both sides. Here in the top, I'm going to I have a issue in that I hit toggle O snap instead of lock O snap. It's a setting I need to fix. Sorry. Offset through point. Go ahead and disable snaps. And through point both sides. It's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fix that. In case you students don't know how that's done, I'm going to go to alias, and I have X currently set to toggle O snap. I want it to be lock O snap. Okay, that way now when I do that, it unlocks and locks that. So, want it on center. I'm going to go ahead and pull this straight line all the way through. While I'm at it, I'll discard those two extra lines. Trim those off. Lock O snap again. Through point, both sides, and capture the narrowness down here at the base of the shank. Go ahead and offset this, both sides through point. And use this to trim. That away. Then I'm going to use a curve, blend curve, adjustable. And I'll pull this almost all the way back. You do want that straightness so that it can be smooth across the bottom of the finger. But you don't need very much of it at all. That's good. mirror. Join. Throw those away. And go ahead and fillet the curve to tidy up the drawing. There, flattened top is done. Now, in theory, these should be the same as far as overall width is concerned. So I'll just copy it down, and you can see it's a little bit different. That's useful because I either have to go with this view or that one. I'm going to stick with what I've got going. So I'm going to explode these and just keep that side. Going to bring up a construction line. Using quadrant from the widest point here. And I'm going to trim that off there. And do a blend curve, adjustable blend curve. Just mirroring that curve around. And I will have drawn the top view. Now I need to draw my side view. I'm going to do the same method that I used in class and when I was demonstrating. First I need to establish the height of this bezel, so I'll go ahead and do that. Offset, through point, both sides, quad, or intersect, they both work. And fill it. I'm going to let these continue to trail down because there's some inaccuracies in this drawing I want to correct here in Rhino that I didn't bother correcting when I was sketching, and that'll be helpful when I get to that point. I'm going to bring a construction line over. And a center line over. I don't want both sides. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to copy it. Actually, one more construction line, I'm sorry. Just trying to make this as easy to follow as possible. A few construction lines to give us some useful dimensioning over here. And another one that would be very helpful is the center line for the finger bore. And I would like to actually give myself that here as well. We can still see the original grid, and that is the finger bore line right there. So I'm going to trim that off. and copy. I'll go from mid to intersect. And then I will rotate. This up. And that will allow me to utilize some of the information that I have here to depict relatively accurate side view. I'm going to go ahead and split these two curves. With the ring bore. And I'm going to non-uniform scale them. Nothing in this direction. But to there. And the widest point here I need to line up right here. So non-uniform scale again. Nothing changes here. But that comes down to here. That does not feel like the center for some reason. But okay. I can now trim off the top of this. Going to use this to trim off the bottom. Now, this is all very useful to me, you know, to a limited extent. It gives me a good guess of what it would look like. I'm going to split this. It's already been split. Okay. So I'm going to do a blend curve. And I am going to go back to my original sketch. And try and modify that. The problem I'm going to have is this cross section right here. Needs to be fairly realistic as far as what would an actual cross section be. What's happening here should come off of a straight line, which it does. I'm going to see if I can get something a little more elegant. Because remember, part of what we're facing as an inaccuracy here is that the overall width was actually narrower here than it is up here. So it made for some unpredictable accidents. Okay. Join those, mirror them over. That's the lower side view. Now, the thing that I wanted to correct And I'll go ahead and just do the bezel from the side here before going any further. And then trim that out and clean up. And I'll make these both visible. Clear because they'll be in red. And just tidying up that a little. Okay, so there's a rough indication of that bezel. I need to draw a cross-section of what the top of this is going to look like inside, and I can do that in a fairly rough way by trimming off the side of this and doing a curve, blend curve again. I'll go into blue so that it's clear that it's a sectional view. So there's what that section would likely look like. That cross section you don't need to do this at home, but I'm doing it so that it's easier to follow what I'm doing. These are the same thing. Okay? At this point, it might be easier to simplify things a little visually. So, where this bezel hits on this cross section in the middle, is right here. And we know where it hits at the offset here. So I'm going to do an extend by arc to point. Whenever you do that command, it creates a polycurve, so I have to explode it and delete the straight line on the other side. And that'll give us a more accurate impression of what's going on in here. And you can see that that is substantially different than what my sketch was. Because my sketch, I didn't go to the trouble to do cross-sectional stuff and carry the information around. It is more easy to do that. It is easier to do that in Rhino. So the side view here is right there. And I'll go ahead and carry that all the way across. Use the center line to trim it off. And do another extend by arc to point. To capture this arc. Explode this. Throw away the straight parent line. It was just reference geometry. Mirror it over. Join it up, make it red. And now I can tidy up the bezel. that out. And that'll pretty much complete that drawing. The rest of it's just tidying, cleaning house. That's sufficient. That's a reasonably good, in fact, I put that miter curve in the wrong place. That miter corner is right there. Okay, so that is the completed tracing in Rhino. The last thing to be done with this is to set it up for modeling. To set this up for modeling, I'm going to group each view. So that I can select it independently of the others. I'm going to rotate the front view upright, so it would be an actual, where the actual front view would be. I'm going to move the top view into position, using intersect to grab it here, and then I can just type in 0. In my layers, you'll see that they're actually color-coded with names on it. Top view goes on green. Front view goes on blue. The last one to move into position is the side view, and that's why I left this reference curve here. I'm just going to make things a little easier. Going to move it over. And then I'm going to rotate it upwards. And then I'm going to rotate it to the side. And you can see that what I end up with when I'm done are my 3 views in position for drawing, and my flattened top view. I'll line that up with a grid as well, just because it's always nice to have that lined up on a grid. A little awkward there, but it worked. Okay. And for just to keep it clarity, keep it clear, I'll put this on a dark blue layer. So that gives me all the elements I need to begin modeling the maquette. Thanks for watching.